Can you imagine that in 2026, the most powerful nation on Earth, the country that has dominated every battlefield for the last 80 years, is actually losing a war against a country it has been sanctioning for 4 decades? This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not fear-mongering. This is the cold, calculated analysis of geopolitical experts whose last 2 predictions about this exact war already came true. And their 3rd prediction, the one that changes everything, is unfolding right now in real time. Welcome to World Unveiled. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on the story that mainstream media is too afraid to tell you. Before we go any further, understand one thing clearly. This is not just a military war. What is happening right now between America and Iran is a multidimensional conflict being fought on 4 separate battlefields simultaneously. Military, economic, psychological, and energy. America is only focused on one of those 4. Iran is fighting all of them at once. And that is exactly why the most advanced military force in human history is struggling against a country with a fraction of its budget. Let us start with the numbers, because the numbers alone will shock you. Iran's famous Shahed drone costs approximately $500 to manufacture. The American interceptor missile fired to shoot that drone down costs a minimum of $3 million. Read that again. To destroy a $500 piece of equipment, America spends $3 million every single time. And this is not happening once or twice. This is happening hundreds of times every single week. The U.S. Defense Secretary himself confirmed to CNN that Iranian drones are creating a far bigger problem than anticipated, and that stopping them is proving more difficult than stopping ballistic missiles. America is not just losing battles. America is being financially drained by the most cost-effective military strategy ever deployed in modern warfare. But the drone economics are just the beginning. The real weapon Iran is using is geography. The Strait of Hormuz, that narrow 33-kilometer stretch of water between Iran and Oman, is the single most important choke point in the entire global economy. 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas passes through this strait every single day. 20%. That means 1 in every 5 cars running on this planet, 1 in every 5 factories operating, 1 in every 5 homes staying warm this winter is directly connected to what happens in those 33 kilometers of water. And right now, Iran effectively controls those 33 kilometers. They have mined it, they have blockaded it, they have turned it into what analysts are now calling the Tehran toll booth, where ships that want to pass must contact the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, show documentation, and in many cases pay a direct fee to the very government America is at war with. Now here's where the strategy becomes truly terrifying. Most people think this conflict is just about oil prices going up a little, a few dollars more at the pump, some economic discomfort for a few months. But what Iran is actually targeting is something far more devastating and far more permanent. The GCC countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain. These are not just oil producers. These are the financial backbone of the entire American economic system through a mechanism most people have never heard of called the Petrodollar. These Arab nations sell their oil to the world in American dollars. That constant global demand for dollars is what keeps the dollar strong. Then, those same nations take their dollar profits and pour them back into American stock markets, American real estate, and most importantly, right now, American artificial intelligence infrastructure. The Gulf states are among the largest investors in the AI data centers that the entire American tech economy is currently built upon. If Iran can destabilize these Gulf states, if it can threaten their existence and cut off their oil revenues, those investments stop. And the day those Gulf investments stop flowing into American AI infrastructure, what many economists are already calling the most overvalued bubble in financial history will burst. Not gradually, immediately. And when that bubble bursts, it will not just be stock prices falling, it will be the end of dollar dominance as we know it. Iran understands this perfectly. That is why their strategy is not simply to fire missiles at American warships. Their strategy is to threaten the water supply, the energy infrastructure, and the food supply chains of the Gulf states that keep the American financial system alive. The Gulf states have no natural freshwater sources. Over 60% of their drinking water comes from desalination plants that turn seawater into drinkable water. A single Iranian drone costing $500, if it hits the right desalination plant in Riyadh, could cut off drinking water for a city of 10 million people within 2 weeks. This is not science fiction. Now, the question every American taxpayer should be asking is this: why did the most powerful military in history get dragged into a war it cannot win cleanly? The answer has 3 layers, and each one is more disturbing than the last. The first layer is overconfidence. A recent small operation in Venezuela went smoothly and gave certain decision makers in Washington an inflated sense of what American military power can achieve in the current environment. History has seen this mistake before. It is the same overconfidence that led Napoleon into Russia, the same overconfidence that pulled America into Vietnam. The same overconfidence that kept America in Afghanistan for 20 years before leaving with nothing to show for it. A small, easy win convinces people that the next war will be just as easy. It never is. The second layer is financial and political incentive. This war, whatever its cost to the American people, is personally profitable for the decision makers who started it. Saudi Arabia has made a massive $2 billion investment into a private equity fund connected directly to people at the highest levels of American political power. Israeli financial backers have openly pledged hundreds of millions of dollars to support political careers in Washington. When the people making war decisions are personally profiting from those decisions, the question of whether the war is strategically wise for America becomes almost irrelevant. The war is not being fought for America. It is being fought for the people who funded the politicians who started it. The third layer is the most unsettling of all, and it is the one that mainstream media will never touch. If you study the historical documents and declassified intelligence files that have quietly emerged over the past decade, a pattern becomes visible. There are powerful non-governmental networks that have consistently pushed Western governments toward conflict in the Middle East, regardless of strategic logic and regardless of economic cost. These networks operate across religious, financial, and political institutions simultaneously, and their goal is not victory in any conventional military sense. Their goal is the fulfillment of a very specific ideological and, in some cases, theological agenda centered on the Middle East as the stage for a final civilizational conflict. Whether you believe in the theology or not is irrelevant. What matters is that the people making decisions believe in it completely. And when decision makers are operating from a predetermined script rather than strategic calculation, no amount of military or economic logic will change their behavior. This is what makes the current situation so uniquely dangerous. America is not fighting this war to win it in any traditional sense. Iran knows this. Iran's entire strategy is built around this knowledge. They do not need to defeat the American military on the battlefield. They simply need to make the war expensive enough, long enough, and painful enough that the economic and political consequences inside America become unbearable. They have studied every American war since Vietnam, and they know exactly how this works. They know that America does not lose wars on battlefields. America loses wars at home, in the economy, in the political debate, in the public's willingness to keep paying for a conflict that produces no clear victory and no clear end. The question is no longer whether America can destroy Iranian military infrastructure from the air. It clearly can. The question is whether destroying that infrastructure from the air actually ends the war, or simply makes Iran angrier, more determined, and more creative about the ways it fights back. History in Iraq, Libya, Syria, and Afghanistan has already answered this question. Air power alone has never once changed a regime or ended a conflict. It has only ever created more enemies and more chaos. And yet, here we are again. World Unveiled exists to show you the stories behind the stories. The game behind the game. Not the headlines, but the architecture underneath the headlines that determines where all of this is actually going. What you have just heard is not pessimism. IT is pattern recognition. And the pattern right now is pointing in a direction that every person on this planet, not just Americans, not just Iranians, but every person whose life depends on a stable global economy and a world not on fire, needs to understand clearly and urgently. This war is not what they are telling you it is. And the way it ends will not look like anything they are promising you it will look like. Stay informed, stay aware, and stay with World Unveiled. If this video made you think differently about what is happening right now, share it with someone who needs to see it. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to World Unveiled for the stories that the mainstream will never tell you.